Hi Megan, my name is Ines Michaud. I'm currently a Boss 6 student at EHL and the head of PNC for the Young Hospitality Summit.
Great.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Would you like to maybe introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. So my name is Megan Torrance and I oversee the learning and development team at Forbes Travel Guide. So we're a global team of about 40 trainers, and we work with hotels all around the globe for just service excellence enhancement. So a lot of people think we train to this 5-star level, but we really just train to help individuals be motivated, be inspired to be better tomorrow than they are today. And everybody's journey is a little bit different, and we meet them where they are on that journey.
That sounds like every day is really different and is like extremely exciting.
It's very exciting.
But Forbes Travel Guide is also known for their service standards. And I think that when you are a Forbes Travel Guide, people know that they are a Forbes Travel Guide. In your experience, how would you ensure that those standards translate into authentic and meaningful guest experiences rather than feeling 900 standards that they would have to just tick off?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the biggest thing is as soon as we start looking at in the industry, as soon as we start looking at the standards as a checklist of things we have to do, then it does become very transactional. And, we really have to work with our teams, and we have to work when we're in the space to avoid that, and instead understand that each of those standards is creating a feeling for a guest, whether it's a positive feeling when done correctly or a negative feeling when missed. And obviously the goal is to have more positive feelings throughout the experience than negative feelings. And I say negative, I know that sounds harsh, but if a standard's missed, it does leave a point of confusion or a point of question with the guest. And so that's the part that we have to think about is, what is the spirit of this standard? What is this standard intended to make the guest feel? And then how do we use that to understand how to react in the situations versus, check.
Yeah, like all good. And then there's not much of the emotional side from the guest.
Exactly.
And in your experience, what's like the biggest challenge for hotels when trying to implement these standards or trying to evoke these emotions constantly with the guest?
Yeah, and I think the biggest challenge we have is that, if you have a leadership team who's really driven and they want to score well, which I applaud and appreciate, of course, we want them to score well. But when they do really drive the just do it this way every time, like just do it this way so we can get the yes. I think that's the worst thing that we can hear in the industry is, how do we get the yes? Or just tell us how to get the yes, or just do it this way to get the yes. If we do that, we're completely missing, again, the spirit of that standard and what it's intended to be. And so from a leadership perspective, you just need to be confident to know that there's multiple ways to achieve the expectations. I should back up. Some of them are pretty straightforward, like having a coaster with a drink. But for the most part, the more emotional and human touch ones have multiple ways of achieving the expectation. And we need to train our teams, and we need to work with our teams to understand that, you could achieve genuine interest by asking the guest questions, but there's also other ways that you can achieve it as well. And so making sure that we find that right balance to drive the expectation, but not drive the do it this way every time mentality.
And do you think that by doing it this way as well, the hotels that have the Forbes 5 can actually differentiate themselves from each other as well? Because if everyone is just ticking off a box or reading from a script, the hotels wouldn't be special.
Yeah, they lose character that way. It becomes very robotic and very transactional. And you don't need me to tell you that every guest these days is looking for that authenticity, and they're coming to a beautiful place like this because they want the heart and soul of the individuals that work there, the heart and soul of the innkeeper. And again, if we do a checkbox mentality, we lose that heart and soul. So that's where it gets tricky.
Perfect. And during your panel yesterday, you mentioned emotional intelligence as a great center of hospitality. How do you actually train teams to develop soft skills like empathy, awareness, and genuine connection with the guests?
That's a great question. I think with training the teams on how to do that, I think what's very important when we train, especially, is we don't say, well, what does the standard say? Like, oh, did you achieve the standard? We say instead, like, oh, well, what would be best for the guest in this situation? So in this situation where the guest is checking in and the guest is late and tired, like, what would be best for the guest in this situation? And then we work backwards to see how the standard fits in that. But I think the real key thing in developing that empathy and that emotional intelligence is not leading with the standard, but leading with what would be best for the guest and having them analyze that part of it.
And through your experience, do you think that interpersonal skills can truly be taught, or is it more natural, or it comes more naturally to certain people?
I would agree that it comes more naturally to certain people. A lot of that comes with just personality types or confidence or whatnot. Also, I think that some people have modeled that or have had that modeled from their parents or grandparents, for example. But that said, I think that everybody's skills can be refined. So, everybody's going to have a different level of comfort and maybe a different level of interpersonal skills, but we can always refine whatever we start with, we can always refine it. And that's our role.
And when evaluating or working in properties around the world, have you seen examples where small gestures made a great lasting impression on guest experience?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that that's another big misconception, is that everyone thinks it has to be the big gestures, but really, in my opinion, luxury is defined when the small gestures are done consistently. So it's the little tiny things that are done consistently that defines luxury versus, that one guest that one time who you did something amazing for. Just as an example, I was talking to a gentleman here last night who had interned at a property, and there was a guest who had a beautiful dress and had needed it pressed or whatnot. And so he did it, he pressed, he returned it. And she had mentioned going to some party that evening, and he knew that the party would be outside. So he just brought her a shawl to wear because the dress didn't have sleeves. And that lady ended up leaving and asking to speak to the manager and say, like, this gentleman made my stay. I've never seen anything like this in all of my travels. And, that is a very small gesture, but the fact is they did it. They were present enough in the moment to pay attention, to think ahead of what the guest might need and to do it. And to find a team that does that consistently you're really fortunate. Or when you're working on a team that does that consistently, it's a really fortunate thing because there's just such a good energy and such a good common goal.
Yes, it's really nice when someone can do that for one guest, but how would you, what kind of advice would you tell, for example, a hotel where they have to touch, let's say 60, 70, the luxury hotels are usually a bit smaller, so 60, 70, maybe even 100 guests on their most busy days. How would you empower the team to do those things?
Yeah, really great question. I think that the biggest thing that you can do is you can drive creativity, right? And so you really have to push the limits of getting people to think outside the box, because the great example is, for example, if someone's going on a hike, someone might say, oh, I could offer them a bottle of water. Of course you can, and that's great. And please don't stop doing that. But if we all just stop at the bottle of water, then we get stuck when the guest has a bottle of water in their hands when they leave for the hike, and then the service becomes transactional. So, as leaders, the best thing that we can do in order to drive that thinking in the small moments is to say, all right, a guest is going on a hike, and what's something that we could do that's thoughtful, and go around the room and have everyone give a different example, because usually when you get to example number 10, 11, 12, whatever the case is, there's some really creative things that are coming out that are super simple. And someone there might say, oh, well, we could offer to have their room serviced while they're out so that it's fresh when they get back. And if we don't push that level of creativity to think outside of just the water, then we're not equipped to pay attention and react to those small gestures when the opportunity presents itself.
Okay, I'm gonna make sure to keep being creative then.
Keep being creative, yes.
And in your role, you focus on fostering a culture of service excellence. What do leaders and managers play in making sure that those service values are truly lived by the team?
They played the most crucial role. First and foremost, leading by example, of course. I mean, that goes without saying. But it's really, again, everything that we've kind of talked about of how they're leading their team. Are they leading their team to check a box, or are they leading the team to create an incredible guest experience? And, I see the leader role as very crucial, that they lead to create an incredible guest experience, and they're responsible for the standards in the back of their mind to making sure that they're executed. But if they're leading, just check the box, check the box, you're not going to have a strong service culture. You're going to have a robotic transactional situation.
It sounds like it just has to be a great balance between many things at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. Well, not to mention the guest.
Yes, of course.
Of
course. From your experience, what distinguishes a hotel with a strong service culture from one that simply follows procedures?
That's a good question. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen in my experience is that there's often a misconception, but a strong service culture is not accidental. A strong service culture is very intentional. It's intentional from, your hiring, who you're hiring and where you're compromising or not compromising. It's intentional from how you drive it every day. It's intentional from how you treat the employees, the rule of treat others how you want to be treated, of course. But a strong service culture comes with work at it every single day. And it's generally maybe an HR team or an operations team who's working constantly to build that internal service culture so that the team then can give that service to the guest. And I think when you don't have that strong service culture, it's because maybe a team just feels like it'll happen naturally. And the reality is it takes a lot of work and a lot of dedication and a lot of focus on building that service culture every single day. And it sounds easy, but it's probably one of the most difficult things. And once it's the thing that makes most of the great hotels in the world so successful is they commit to doing that.
So in your experience, would you say that when you visit a Forbes 5-star property, the teams are just incredible?
Of course, but I will say too, I'm staying at a property in town that's not rated. It wouldn't be considered rated, just it's not that style of hotel. And I had the most amazing check-in that I've ever had, and so wow. I think yes, of course, 5-star teams are incredible, but I think there's incredible gems in service everywhere. And I think we, as an industry, if we keep our eyes open and we just pay attention to service when it happens, we start understanding like, wow, I get it. Like service feels good and it can be found anywhere if we just look for it. So I would say like it doesn't limit itself at 5-star hotels, but yes, generally 5-star hotels have more consistency in that everybody on the property is acting that way.
And when service is done perfectly, everything is done great, do you see that guests are able to then really immerse themselves in their experience and almost go into this transformational experience journey?
Yes. And I think, to answer your question, that's a great question. I think to answer your question, it's because the teams let them, because the teams let them have the experience they want and they don't try to make them fit into the box of what every other guest is doing. So yes, if a team is confident enough to listen to the guests, to respond appropriately, to, help guide them in the way that they want to be guided, then absolutely that magic is created. But if most of our guests do X, Y, Z, and we try to make every guest do X, Y, and Z, that's where it falls apart too. So, yes, guests can get lost in that transformative experience, but it's because the team has let them.
Like the people are really, when they say the heart of house, they really mean that the people are the heart.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And now going back a little bit, before joining Forbes Travel Guide, you worked in operational leadership roles, including being a general manager at the point. How do those experiences shape the way you approach training and development today?
Yeah, I have had lots of operational roles in lots of different, in food and beverage, in rooms, and various other capacities. But I think that the point, as you brought up, really shaped how I lead today and how I train today. And the reason for that is it's a very unique property where the general manager, the key role of the general manager is to essentially hang out with the guests. So you're welcoming the guests to your home, you're inviting them in, and then we're having dinner with the guest, we're hiking with the guest, we're skiing with the guest, we're going for a jog with the guest, but whatever, we're taking them out on the boat, we're taking them water skiing, whatever the case is. So at that hotel, I was with the guest and I was essentially kind of a guest with them. I was hosting them in my home, for example. So I think the most interesting thing that I learned there is I felt service. The 7 or so years that I was there, I felt service through the eyes of a guest versus through the eyes of an operator. And so that really transformed the way I thought about service in general, because, as an operator, we follow our SOPs and all that, and that's important. I'm not going to suggest it's not. But in that experience, if the coffee break or hot cocoa break that was supposed to be at the end of the hike was 2 minutes late, like I felt it, just like the guest felt it. And as an operator, you don't always have the opportunity to feel that. You say, oh, it's just 2 minutes, like it was pretty close, like, oh, should have been earlier, but it's only 2 minutes. But I felt it as a guest of like, that 2 minutes is a long time. And so to be able to live for about 7 years as a guest in a luxury hotel, it just totally transformed the way I think about service and guest expectation. And it's, the driving force of what I'm doing today.
And how did you balance being a guest and being a general manager leading the team during that time?
I think a lot of it was just really working with the team to be so anticipatory in the respect of thinking so far ahead for the guests. So what I would do is, if I knew, for example, we had a housekeeper call in, I knew that I had to get the guests off property for longer because we needed more time to clean the rooms. So, then I would say, oh, you know what, I'm going to arrange a really great day on the lake of boating, and we're going to go to this rock and we're going to jump off it and swim. So I'll keep them out of here for 2 hours. I'll entertain the guests for 2 hours. in that time, that freed up the team to get into the rooms, have a little bit of extra time in the room if we were short someone. So we worked together in like helping guide the guests through all these different experiences, but then also allowing the team to kind of stay ahead and get caught up on things. So it was really just a wonderful kind of balance of an exceptional guest experience.
So you would just go one day skiing in the winter, and then in the summer go on the lake with the guests. And
I mean, it sounds like a great job.
yeah, it sounds really, really fun.
It was a fun job. It was definitely fun. It was a lot of hard work too. It was a lot of hard work.
To entertain people all the time. It is really difficult. And for the students here at YHS and also the students at EHL preparing to enter the hospitality world, do you have some advice or some mindsets or habits they should start developing if they truly want to deliver an exceptional service experience?
Yes, definitely. And some of this came out in the panel yesterday, but I think I didn't say it. I think LJ said it, but one of the most important things is to get as much experience in as many different outlets as possible. I think as you grow in your career, that's really going to help you understand a bigger picture. And sometimes people get really stuck in a rooms track or a food and beverage track, of course, naturally. But if you ever have the opportunity to jump to F&B, even if it's not your passion, it's just a great experience to understand how it all works together. And if you had spent 3 years or whatever the case is in rooms, you're going to bring some of that knowledge to help them understand. They're going to bring some of their knowledge to help you understand. And that would probably be my number one piece of advice. And then my second piece of advice would be, to even if you're, having a bad experience at with a guest or something like that, just every single thing is a learning moment. And so let's say a guest is upset and you handled it and it didn't go well, like just learn from it and grow from it. Like I was awful when I used to have to deal with guest complaints, and what made me stronger and what made me good at it is I kept doing it. And so I'd analyze it to myself and I would say, all right, like why didn't that work and what went wrong? And that piece of it, so much of that is dependent on self-reflection, because a boss can guide you, a boss can mentor you and all of those things, but your personality and the way that you deal with a guest situation, your personality is going to have to be yours. So if your boss says, oh, just say this, but it's not your personality, then it's going to miss the mark. So much of your development in this industry is self-reflection when you want to grow. And it is, should I have handled that differently, or how would I have handled that differently? Because again, if we want to be authentic, it has to balance not only the right answer, but also our personality, right? And the way you handle it and your personality is going to be completely different than mine. And no one's wrong. It's just, it's not authentic if you try to be me, and it's not authentic if I try to be you. So self-reflection is really a key part of development in this industry.
Wow, I think that is a great way to end the interview. Thank you so much, Megan.
Oh, you're welcome.
I think you've been incredibly insightful. It was really, really interesting to see someone really because not many people want to go into operations so much anymore, like I've noticed. But like to really see that you can get where you are today, and with such incredible experiences in your operations life, and how it really impacted you in your current role. It's as in, it sounds like you just have the best job ever.
It's a pretty good job. It's a pretty good job. And I will say, I wouldn't be right for this role if I didn't have that operations experience, number one. So, it's kind of, I hate to say this, it's a bit cliche, but, everybody do your time. It's worth it in the end. But the other thing, just as we leave and we end this, if, any student wants some advice, is like, I have had the best experiences in my life working in operations. I have made the best friends. I have seen some incredible things from a guest perspective and dealt with met some incredible people that I would have never had the chance to meet, including former presidents, including celebrities, including rock stars, and met them in close contact, like first name basis type thing. And, I know that's all, glamorous, but it just has really shaped who I am today, and it's something I would never change. Like, don't try to fast forward the operation time. Enjoy it, stay on the roller coaster, and really take it for all it is. It'll make you a different person in the end.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Megan. It's been lovely talking to you.
Lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.